Welcome to the Pragati Vichar Literature Festival 2023, Day 2, organized by Frontless Media. And this year's theme is Taking Humanity Forward. So today we all are present here to celebrate the love for literature and discuss the crucial and important subject matters which are prevailing in our society and establish engaging conversation with the audience. So today we have a very lovely guest with us, Miss Bhawana Somaaya, and we're immensely honored to have you, ma'am, today on board.
Thank you very much, Jyotsna. I'm immensely flattered to be interviewed by not just a beautiful looking girl like you, but also an extremely patient professional, because it almost looked like we were all technically challenged here and this interview was not going to happen. But you worked miracles by giving me very correct instructions, and because of it, we are having this magical moment.
Thank you so much. Beautiful words. Yeah. So today's session theme is poetry, and the topic is quest, search, and pursue. So today we will be talking about some rhyming conversation. So let's just start with the introduction. Bhavna Somaaya has been a film critic for more than 40 years and has contributed columns to various publications like The Hindu, The Hindustan Times, Pioneer, BBC, and many more. She is a former editor of Screen and has authored several books on cinema that includes biographies of Hema Malini and Amitabh Bachchan. Her books are a point of reference for students studying cinema at Whistling Woods, Manipal University, and now JNU, Delhi. She has served on the advisory panel of CBFC India and also the governing council FTII Pune. She is the entertainment editor at 92.7 Big FM radio channel. She published Letters to Mother, English translation of the Prime Minister's Gujarati book Sakshi Bhav in 2020, and her latest offering, Letters to Self, is a translation of Sri Narendra Modi, Aankh E Dhanya Che. Somaaya was conferred with Padma Shri and in 2017 and with the honorary doctorate by Jagran Lake City University in 2021. And I'm feeling very honored like I'm interviewing you today, and it's a very great profile. I'm immensely glad to have you today with us. So, like I discussed in your introduction, that letters to self. So today we will be talking about your book, Letters to Self. So I would like to know that the idea of this book, formulating the book about the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's poem, how did it cross your mind, or yeah, how did you pen this book?
So what happened is, in the 2019 and 20, we were all going through the COVID depression. And my book of the Prime Minister's work, translated, the first one, Sakshi Bhav, as Letters to Mother, published in 2020. The book was published, but the COVID was not over. We were not yet back to our offices. And I felt I was working on a cinema book in the day. And I felt that if I don't work on two books simultaneously, I will get into depression because nobody was going out and all that. So I said, "Ke main kya karu?" And I opened my bookshelf and I found another book of Shri Modi in my bookshelf called Aankh E Dhanya Che. And I said, since I've just translated one book and I've already got the hang of his language, his rhythm, his beat, it's the right time to do the second book. So I started translating the second book, and it was much faster, easier, and quicker. Okay. And it also helped me to heal myself during those troubled times. So for me, doing these books, particularly Letters to Self, was an act of healing myself during the COVID, of discipline, and finishing a task before the COVID opened up so that I could get back to my normal life.
Wow, amazing. So when Narendra Modi got to know about your book, that you translated his book, so what was his reaction?
So somebody older than me, who is more well versed with the political world, told me that you send him first 5 poems translated, and only if he approves or he likes or he's positive about it, then you go about translating the rest of the book. Though one is allowed to translate any celebrity's work, I just feel there is no fun in translating something that that subject is not going to identify with. He should feel as thrilled about it as I am feeling. So I made it a point to meet him when he was in Mumbai, and I gave him the 5 poems, and I said that you have a look, and if you feel that the rhythm, the beat, and the language and the thought process is doing justice to your original work, then I will go ahead. So I got a kind of signal that he approves. So I went ahead with the rest of it. And then I was on my own, because translating is not really translating, it's transcreating. If you are translating, it is not like an arithmetic. This is like an art. Sometimes you let go of a certain word because the rhythm has to come in. Sometimes you have to interpret it in a different way because your perception is different. It has to feel, it has to have the feel of what he's thinking and what he's feeling. So, Jyotsna, for me, the biggest challenge was that it is a male poet. Right. And it is a male gaze. And I am a female writer. So, how do I interpret his gaze without compromising on his authenticity? I had to make certain that my undercover the humanity which was the for. I think there is some internet issue. Bhavna ma'am? It is a translating job. The other is somebody like me who is an original writer and who also transcreates. Okay.
Question to you. So, how did you find yourself venturing into poetry?
So, see, I am not a poet or a poetess. When I was young in school, I used to try writing poetry, but not very successful at it. As I grew older, I was reading a lot of poetry, but never writing poetry. And my writing is more about facts than fiction, because I write about real people, I write about movies, and I write biographies and I read biographies. But I don't know, for me, picking up this book was just an impromptu decision. I did not view it as poetry. Okay. Because I feel even he is just writing his feelings and his thoughts. I don't think Narendra Modi ji is thinking about the meter, about the beat, and about the rhyme. Okay. He is actually, his writing is in a no man's land of prose and poetry. Okay. It's somewhere in between, and it's the purity of the emotions, it's the originality of the thought that appeals to us and makes us wonder about the man and know more about the man behind the mask of the Prime Minister.
So is it your second book, right? First is the Letters to Mother, and second one is Letters to Self. So it's your second poetry book that you have translated. Okay. Right. So poetry offers a window into the history of human evolution, because poetry is something that everybody feels resonated, right? So what's your take on this?
I don't agree, because I don't think poetry offers that kind of a window and everybody identifies with it. In fact, I feel very few people are drawn to poetry. Okay. They are either dormant poets themselves, or they have a deep understanding of poetry and appreciate it, and that's why go to poetry. In fact, if you talk to the publishers, they say that the poetry books are the most difficult to sell because they are the last to be picked up by the audience. But I feel people who write poetry reflect a certain deep thought process, introspection about life, about their surrounding, about themselves. And what appeals to me about the Prime Minister's poetry or writing, I continue to call it writing rather than poetry, is he is inspired and attracted to almost everything around him.
Okay.
And he is having a thought process about everything around him, whether it's the trees, the flowers, the rivers, the mountains. It looks like he's talking to all this, the birds, the buffaloes, the animals.
Yeah.
And he is also writing about his concerns, whether it is social, emotional, political, democratic, national. And his thoughts are varied. He talks about a kite in the sky that is broken and how could he bring it back. He talks about the garba, the traditional garba, and what it means, you know, the entire swirl and the twirl when the circle happens. He talks about Vande Mataram. He talks about the Gayatri Mantra. He talks about a friend who was a poet and is no more. He talks about a mother and a child. So it's as if the stars, the sun, the moon, and the sky are forever, you know, hovering around him, particularly the moon. It looks like the moon is his constant companion who is peeping from the clouds and listening to his stories, to his poetry. So it's interesting for me. The subject is interesting because you feel you know yourself, you feel you know your friends, you feel you know your expertise, whether it is cinema or something else. And you feel you know your prime minister because you watch him on the television every day. He's
Right.
making speech on the left, right, center. He's fighting elections.
Okay.
But do we really know him? No, because
Exactly, we don't know him. Yeah, I agree
yeah.
with you. Yeah.
So there is a different facet to his personality that comes out, and it's also what he writes in the foreword. He says, "I write because I'm unable to contain myself. I write because I feel a need for self-expression, and I write because I want to communicate. So don't judge me by my writing. Don't equate my post with my writing." You know, I think this is so wonderful because some of the writing he has written in the 80s,
Okay.
some in the 90s, some in the 2000s. In the 80s, he was an RSS worker. In the 90s, he was CM. And now he's the PM. But he continues to write and he writes in different diaries, he writes in different pages. And it's when the books were, you know, combined and put together, it's literally putting all these pages together. Some pages hidden inside books, some in trunks, some in little boxes, some in drawers, bringing it all out because always there was a publisher, a persistent publisher in his life who believed in it and who pushed him. Though he said he never wrote for publishing. He never wrote because he wanted to be read. In fact, the first book, The Letters to Mother, he used to systematically destroy everything he wrote. Every 3 months, he made a bonfire and he would burn his writing. Then a friend came to his home and said that, "What are you doing? If you have written something, you should respect it. You can't be destroying it." And he snatched it away from him. And that's how somehow the publisher got to know. And through his common friends, he pursued. And that's how, imagine I had gone for the release of his book in Mumbai, the Gujarati original. And I was sitting in the audience listening to him at that time, the Chief Minister of Gujarat. And never in my wildest imagination had I thought that I was going to translate his poetry. And then, because of COVID, because of being isolated, I find his book, I translate. This would not have happened if he had destroyed all his books. Some of it got saved. So, somewhere a decade later, I found the book and I translated and I reached a wider audience.
It was destined, I feel like. Yeah. So, being an author and a poet yourself, do you think the two forms complement each other?
You mean prose and poetry?
Yeah, the author and a poet yourself, the writing and the poetry, because these two terms are very different from each other. So, do you think that these two forms complement each other?
I think eventually it's all about writing, it's words. Some fall as prose, some fall as poetry. What holds our attention, what engages us as readers is good thought, good words, and an honesty, a transparency. And it's like when I was very young, my father said, everybody can write. All of us can write. We all have learned the alphabets, but very few can write well. And the challenge is to continuously keep writing so that we write well. So कॉम्प्लीमेंट है कि नहीं, दोनों में रिदम है कि नहीं, इतना ज्यादा मैं सोचती नहीं हूँ, मैं सिर्फ लिखती हूँ.
और ये सबसे बड़ी खूबसूरती की बात है कि आप लिखते हो, बस सोचते नहीं हो. तो the social media plays a very integral role when it comes to influence people, that you have written so many things and you have been a film critique, so you make sure that people influence through your that, yeah, this movie is good and this movie is that. And even when you compile the poetry, so there is some impact that you have created on the readers, right? So I want to know the social media, the what's the role of social media played in shaping, the modern poetry or any
Unfortunately,
other writing.
unfortunately, I think most people on the social media are on it for just the fun and the frolic. They are all wanting to put very dazzling pictures, and they're scrolling all the time, and they want to know how many people liked and shared their post. The influencers should be important on the social media, but we are living in consumerist times when the influencers are all working for money.
Right.
So they are professional influencers who are paid for their content. I have no problem with it, but they cannot be inspirational influencers because they are looking inwards, not outwards. And they will post something for which they are getting more money or less money accordingly. Their aggression and assertion is accordingly. I feel the general audience is very impatient. The attention span is very small, which is why even movies are not running in the theaters because everybody's looking for a remote button. And what attracts them on the social media is sensationalism, either in terms of costume or in terms of content.
Right.
But in all this mess, I am not a pessimist. There is always a group that is looking for genuine poetry, genuine art, genuine reviews, genuine communications, genuine thoughts. And somehow these artistic people do find artistic other people on the net and express themselves. और अगर इनमें से 5-6 भी मिल जाए तो बहुत है.
बिल्कुल. So my next question, that these poems that you have translated, it's all about, compassion, quest, courage, despair, progress. So with resonating with the topic, the quest, search and pursuit, my next question is to you, that everyone nowadays is on a quest to find themselves on their life purposes, that everybody wants something that, carry on with their lives, move on with their lives. So how essential do you think it is to embark on this journey, that there has to be a life purpose to, move on with their lives, get on with their lives? So yeah, what?
Yeah, I agree with you. Everybody is on this quest for their purpose of life, because they find books also like Ikagi and all, which says that what is your purpose in life. I wish it was a more organic process, but it seems like a very fashionable phase, and very fashionable conversation. Spirituality has also become a fad.
Okay.
It is not. It is not personalized. It's coming from various sources, because there are so many spiritual gurus also. But even if it is coming from elsewhere, if it is artificial, it is temporary, I will still encourage it, because it at least makes you look inwards. We are all on a treadmill, and we all need to pause and ponder that what is happening, where are we going, what do I want, and how much.
Okay.
Because either we are chasing money, or we are chasing numbers, or we are chasing love, or we are chasing security. And I feel the more you chase something, the more it runs away from you.
Okay.
Money and love. You have to just tell the universe that you want it, and you will value it. And after that, not chase it. The minute you stop chasing, both money and love will come to you.
Wow.
I
Oh.
tell this in all my lectures, that money will come from not the source that you are thinking it will come. We think that money will come through, because I'm a writer, it will come to me through a writing job. So I am looking for different avenues each time for more writing, for more money. But I can continue as a writer, and money can come to me through some connected activity, like speaking, doing a film, like doing some radio channels. So
Doing talking and having conversations.
yes,
Yeah.
so I feel money is very clever.
Okay.
Money knows that you are chasing him or her, because it's goddess Lakshmi, so I will call her. तो वो छुपके से रहती है. So she will come to you when you stop hunting for her. Okay. When you stop shopping for her, she'll say, "Acha, she's content. I will go and settle in her home."
Wow. Such a positive affirmation. Yeah, I just got. So I would like to know any stanza from your book that you would like to recite to the audience. If you want, it would be good.
Yeah. Maybe I can recite a small para from his own preface.
Yeah.
And one his poem.
Sure.
Yeah. He says, "My attraction for words stems out of my passion for reading. I'm privileged to have interacted with some of the best minds of Gujarati literature, and fortunate that they included me in their creative journey of poetry readings and Kavi Sammelans. Suresh Dalal is one such evolved mind whom I admire and appreciate his quality to search for poetry everywhere and in everyone. He is the gentleman who published his Gujarati book."
Okay.
What else does he say?
Any stanza that you like.
Yeah. पहले से ढूंढ के नहीं रखा था. Okay. This poem is called All of a Sudden. It's a very short poem, so I'll read the whole poem.
Okay.
On a black paper of darkness, I draw a pond. Over the pond droops a branch, and on the branch hums a bee. To diminish the darkness, I paint a luminous moon, lend shades of blue to the breeze, as cool as the water in the pond. All of a sudden, midsummer sun burns the paper, turns it into ash, and the brush freezes in my hand. The frog croaks, seasons of dreams or dreams of seasons. Everything disperses. Everything disperses.
Thank you so much, Bhavna ma'am.
Okay, wonderful chatting with you, and all the best to you and all my blessings.
And thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your enlightening thoughts with us and to the audience. It was a lovely conversation with you.